There's a big difference between someone who has something to say. I mean, a message, a life story bubbling up in them that you just can't stop. And someone who, well, they just have to say something. They're the ones that stand up every meeting and you can't get them to stop talking, even though what they're saying is nonsense. They just feel like they need to be in the front of the room and dominating the room, but nobody cares what they have to say. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. I opened the text of this message with a quote from John Maxwell, and I'll go back and put the quotes around it, but John Maxwell says all the time, practice doesn't make perfect. That's a myth. Practice makes permanent, meaning whatever you do most often is what you'll do when you're under pressure. If you have a bad habit of touching your face, as an example, when you talk, because it gives you some kind of comfort, then you're probably going to do it when you're under pressure. And isn't that annoying when you're watching someone who's presenting to you and they're always touching their face or they're always pointing at the board, and whatever you practice doesn't become perfect, it becomes permanent. It becomes the habit that you do. Now, that has a lot to do with your communication, the word choices, the way you enunciate the words, where you look when you're talking. Are you looking at the crowd? Are you looking over the top of their heads because you don't want to become nervous? Or are you staring at your notes the whole time? What you practice doesn't become perfect, it becomes permanent. So how you communicate, the words you choose, the stories you tell, all of those are wrapped up in what you practice. So I'm going to give you 3 really easy tips that will change the way you communicate. And I don't mean the heart of what you communicate, I mean the display of the way you communicate. The words that you use, the way that they flow together out of your mouth, the way that you use your voice inflection, whether you go up or you go down, whether you accentuate with power and clarity, or you soften those words for a little emotional connection. And believe it or not, these 3 simple tips are so easy. The only thing they require is discipline and a little bit of your time. I mean, they're really, really easy. So here's the first one. Find a book that you like, especially a book like a novel that has various characters in it, different people playing different roles, men and women, older and younger, where you know for a fact that if you were in the middle of the conversation where the dialogue is taking place, you would hear different sounds, different voices, different accents. And then take that book and read it out loud and record yourself. Read it out loud, doing your best to imitate the voices of the other person as you change the position of the dialogue. If Uncle John is talking to Aunt Sue, use Uncle John's voice and speak in that cadence, speak in that inflection, speak in that drawl if he's a southern man, or speak fast if he's a northern man. And the same for Aunt Sue. Read her dialogue in her dialect. And as you continue to do that, practicing the flexibility to recognize and depict different styles of voices, different speeds of speaking, will allow you to take on the personality of that individual just in practice, and later allow you to vary your own voice and your own tenor and your own volume and your own pace and your own clarity and enunciation, and then to soften that when you need to. All of those aspects of public speaking don't necessarily require that you be on the stage in front of thousands or on a television screen or even on a podcast. But they will help in your communication with your family. They'll help in your communication on your job. They'll help in communication every day in the grocery store, in the mall, at the car wash, getting your oil changed. The ability to be clear on what you say is as important as what you say. And people who mumble and stumble through life, they have a hard time getting job promotions. They have a hard time getting things accomplished. They have a hard time getting bank loans. They have a hard time getting a job sometimes. But practicing by reading out loud what others have written, especially if you find that what you're reading has a dramatic flair, you'll find a whole lot of poignancy in that. So the second thing, after you've done that one tip, gone through the book, read the dialogue, read it out loud, now record yourself, whether it's your phone or a video camera or even just an audio recorder, and listen back to everything that you've said. Do the voices really change? Do you really demonstrate different personalities, different styles, different cadences? Have you captured the emotion that the author wrote into the character in the moment that they said those words? As you listen, do you hear the emotion in the voice or just in the words? And then as you continue to practice that thing, remember, practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent, but you will hear yourself make mistakes and you can learn from those mistakes. When you're now wondering, am I clear in my communication to others? Will other people hear what I'm saying, or is it only that clear inside my head? If you have an iPhone or an iOS device like an iPhone or an iPad, you can set it to dictate, or you can just start talking to it with that common phrase. I don't want to say it now because it'll turn off my recording. But if you use that phrase, she'll start recording what you're saying. When you stop talking, she will type it back for you. And if you read back what she heard you say and they're nothing alike, it might be background noise, but it might be that you're not clearly enunciating what you think you said. You may have heard it in your head one way, but everybody else's ears catch it another way. That's a great way to practice the clarity of your speech. I would say that of all of the people who reach out to me to become their speech coach, 90% could improve the quality of their communication just with those 3 tips. And for those who say, well, I really want more practice with evaluation, Toastmasters is only $75 a year. It's a phenomenal place to get regular practice, to get regular coaching from someone that's going to hear what you have to say and tell you whether or not you were clear on your communication. And if you feel like, you know what, I've got a big thing coming up, I need somebody to walk me through this process like right now, not only to work on my delivery and my articulation, but to make sure that I've written the speech well, to make sure that it connects with human beings well, to make sure that I've properly displayed the stories alongside the points as an anecdote so that people can follow along with what I'm doing and make a real change in their life. The link is provided in the text, jlorennorris.com/coach, and get an idea of the things that I have to offer. I'll be delighted to sit down and chat with you. You can call me, you can text me, you can reach out any way you'd like to. If you feel like these 3 tips are a great start, Toastmasters is too long a process, you need somebody to work with now, I'd be delighted to help you. I'm J Loren Norris for Leading Leaders Podcast on Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.